Hey friends and family, Matt here with this week's housing market update. I want to speak specifically to buyers this week. If you're a home buyer sometime in the near future, maybe that's a few months from now, maybe that's in the next few years, but a lot of buyers are curious, what does this big settlement and all these headlines mean for me as a home buyer when it comes to buyer agent commissions and so forth. So just a few things that you need to know. First of all, as I said recently on social media, I do not want to be creating all this FOMO or this fear-mongering out there. But reality is that buying a home in the coming months might feel different. We'll still get to the same destination, we'll get to the end result and get you into a new home. It just might look different and feel different than it has in the past. And part of that is you could be shouldering some more cash to close if sellers choose, and I think most will continue choosing to pay a co-op to the buyer's agent. I think that's in their best interest, but some will choose not to. And if that's the case, then you'll have an agreement with your buyer's broker, your broker representation, helping you purchase the home, and you'll be paying them directly if there's no concessions or no cooperating commission from the seller's side. What does this mean for VA buyers? Well, if you're a veteran, we really hope and expect regulations to change, but right now veterans cannot pay out of pocket towards representation. So if the seller's not paying your broker, or we cannot get concessions paid for from the transaction or negotiated into the transaction, it's going to be a challenge for VA buyers until we see regulations change or some other type of creative financing options come into play. So if you're a VA buyer and you've had any thoughts of purchasing, I would encourage you to get your ducks in a row soon. Reach out to us and let's get a plan together sooner than later. But if it's not in the next few months for you, I still believe there will be resolutions and solutions will kind of work themselves out in the months and months to come. And it's still going to be okay. Again, I think most sellers will offer a co-op. I believe it's in their best interest, and I think most sellers understand that. Something else for buyers you'll need to know is no longer will you be able to go look at a home without signing a buyer's brokerage agreement with a broker. That's just going to be the new norm. It's going to be mandated that a brokerage agreement is signed between you and your buyer representation before you can go even look at one home. And that is effective as of July 1st as it stands right now. But something important you're going to need to know as a home buyer, you really will need to understand the true cost of ownership for each home that you look at purchasing. Because you might go look at 3 homes, for example, tomorrow, and one of them might be offering concessions. One of them might be offering concessions and buyer broker representation, even though that's not on the MLS, but they'll still be, it'll still be offered. And some homes won't offer either of those, which will be just much more cash out of pocket for the buyer to get into the home unless we can negotiate it into the transaction. So again, understanding that you might look at 3 homes with much different scenarios based on down payment, closing costs, and buyer broker compensation. And then lastly, some creative solutions I know will roll out there. Lenders are already working on what does it look like to finance some of these things. Some regulations might need to change around that, but I'm very optimistic that there'll be many things change in the months to come in favor of the buyers. But here's the good news of all this. I want to leave you with this. The good news for buyers is I've been doing this for 20 years. And when it comes to masterminds that you see all across the country of realtors getting together to say, how can we get better? How can we market homes better? How can we get more money for our sellers? And that's a lot of times what conversations are about. But maybe for the first time ever, am I seeing the level of conversations and priority put on the home buyer's experience. The conversation now for realtors who care is going to be, how do we create a better experience and bring more value to the table for a home buyer? Because if a home buyer is going to be shouldering, in some cases, a bit more cash to close, if it's in addition, again, to down payment and closing costs, again, I don't think that'll be the norm, but when that happens, what can we do to create a better value and experience for the buyer? I know we've been thinking that way for a long time, but for some realtors across the country, for the first time ever, they're being challenged to think about how can we represent our buyers at a higher level. So in the end, this is great for buyers because now the focus is on you as the home buyer to provide more value and give you a better experience nationwide, which I think is going to raise the bar for our industry and for buyers' experience across the board. Again, much more transparent process going into it. But yeah, there'll be some things to navigate, and we'll definitely hold your hand along the way. Any questions, reach out to us. Kind of a loaded message here, but again, just trying to control the narrative and make sure everybody understands, both buyers and sellers both, what this means for you in the months to come. Thanks so much. As always, we appreciate you. See you soon.